to my channel. I'm Miley and welcome to my world. So I'm not really sure what week of quarantine this is, but if you're like me, you are probably missing people right now and human connection.
Hug me.
So with everybody having to stay at home, I thought it would be really fun to get back to the old-fashioned way of spreading the love. So I am going to be making and decorating cards for my friends and family. I have been decorating cards now for about 3 years. I started decorating cards because usually really nice cards can get pretty pricey, and I love that I can make the card really personal for the person I am giving it to. So without any further ado, I'm gonna grab my art supplies and get started. Starting off, I'm just grabbing some supplies. Oh, don't pay attention to this. I was just a winner once. And just grabbing some colored pencils in this container and some other random art supplies, a pack of cards, winner, and my adult markers and a sketchbook. And then I have this bucket of random art supplies where I keep some watercolor paints. I have a hot glue gun. Just grab some computer paper and I am ready to go. For my first card, I took 4 pieces of computer paper and turned it into 8 small square pieces of paper. And then taking one of those squares, I just folded it to make a triangle and then folded that in half to make a smaller triangle and once more to make an even smaller triangle. And then taking a pencil, I just traced a half circle and then I cut along that line. And when you open it up, you'll have a flower. And then taking that flower shape, I started making lines with my dark purple marker coming from the center and then along the edge, and I left 2 of the sections blank. Using a light purple marker, I did lines coming from the center again to just give this flower more dimension. And then once I was done coloring, I cut out one of those blank sections and glued the 2 pieces on either side together. We have 1 flower complete, 6 more to go. To make sure that all of my flowers are the same shape, I took that piece I cut out from the first flower and used it to trace a new line for all of the other flowers. And then I made a second purple, 2 pink flowers, 2 blue, and 1 orangey yellow flower. Taking my purple folded flower, I glued one side of the flower and then laid down my pink flower on top of it, and then I glued the other side and laid my blue flower on that side. I'm going to glue the 3 sections where all the colors meet. Then I just laid my orange flower over top of that. Gluing 2 sections of the orange flower and 1 section of the blue and pink flower, I then laid a pink flower over the blue side and a blue flower over the pink side. Then I just glued again where those 3 colors meet and put down my last purple flower. Attaching this to my card, I just glued the middle section of that purple flower and laid it along the crease in the card. Oh no, too big. And then I glued the middle section of the other purple flower. And And now here comes the moment for the big reveal. Ooh, ah. Now that I have the inside all cool and poppy-outy, I had to work on the outside of the card and work on the dilemma of the fact that the flowers were too big for the card. Too big. I started out by tracing the card size onto a piece of paper so I knew what area to fill in, and using some watercolor, I started making flowers. I like working with watercolor because you can kind of just toss some paint on a page, and the kind of blobbier and messier it looks, the better it is. To fix the situation with the flowers being too big for the card, I just painted a blue bar past the size of the card so that it covers up the little end of the flower sticking out. And after sketching out some stems, I just went in with a black pen for detail. And then between the flowers and the bar, I wrote thinking of you. Aww, who am I thinking about? The world may never know. And this is the card all complete. I just did a light watercolor on the back, and I really love how this card turned out, and I think my grandma will too. Now you guys know my secret and who I was thinking of. On to the next card. Sticking with the floral theme, this card is going to be for my mom because moms and grandmas just scream flowers. And my mom's favorite flower is a pink rose, so I thought it would be cool to create some kind of pink rose pop-up card. With my watercolor palette, I just started to paint some pretty basic roses, kind of a U shape that I fill in with some stems and leaves. And while I waited for my roses to dry, I painted this beanstalk looking thing that I'm going to use for filler in the card. And yes, I did sing Into the Woods the whole time I was painting this. And once the paint was dry, I used a dark pink marker to add detail with petals and little squiggly squiggles. I might add, these are some very realistic looking roses. And then taking a dark green marker, I did the same thing, just adding some detail to the stem and petals to just take these super realistic looking flowers up a notch. And then I continued on with that detail on my beanstalk. And once I was done, I just cut out all of those roses. Don't forget my beanstalk. And taking a card, I drew 6 lines, 4 at 1 inch out and 2 at 2 inches out, and then just cut along those lines. And then you take each strip that you cut and you fold it inward. Once I had my card all ready, I just started to hot glue the roses on each of these strips. And then at the end, just ripped some pieces off my beanstalk and glued it to the bottom to fill in. To complete this bouquet, I just folded a piece of paper and glued it to the bottom to cover the bottom of the flowers. And then taking that first card, I just hot glued it into a second card. And this is the inside all complete. To start the front of the card, I just traced the card, and doing some measuring, I created 2 boxes that were 2 by 4 and 1 box that was 1 by 4. In that center box, I just wrote out "Love You Bunches." Get it? Like bunches of flowers. And using my watercolor again, I just filled in those boxes using different shades of pink. Using a darker pink, I just started to make little blobs in the 2 big boxes. And while those dried, I just went over the "Love You Bunches" with a black marker. Going in with a dark pink, I just started to add details to each one of those blobs, and taking a green marker, I started to make petals to make these little blobs look like little roses. I filled in those petals using a light green marker. After cutting out each one of those rectangles, I then just glued it to the front of the card. And this is the card all complete. I think it's super cute, and I'm hoping my mom likes it, and if she doesn't, I do know where she lives. For my final card in this video, I used the same method of pop-up that I used in my mom's card. I measured 1.5 inches out, and then 1 inch out, and then 1/2 inch out, and just popped each one of those pieces forward. Then at the very top, I drew and cut out a heart. This card is for my friend Gracie, who gave me the idea for this video. Due to the current circumstances, she had to postpone her wedding, so I thought it would be really fun to create a new wedding date card and send it to her. And the card that I glued this to, I flipped inside out so that the white would be on the outside. The design of this card I kept pretty simple. I just wrote Mr. and Mrs. with a heart in the middle across the front, and then wrote out their new wedding date below that. And since they are getting married on July 4th, I did some red, white, and blue stripes in the middle of that heart. Sticking with that 4th of July theme, I just drew out a red, white, and blue design to make this look like a 4th of July wedding cake. And this is the final card complete. I really like how simple the outside is, and then with the fun, patriotic inside. I really love how each one of these cards turned out and how personal they are to the person I am sending it to, and that is why I love decorating cards, because you aren't limited to what is in a store. And all that's left to do now is mail them. And that is it, guys. I hope you liked this video, and I hope this inspires you to make cards for your friends and family. And if you liked this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and hit the notification button so you know when I post. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye, guys. No? You don't want to say bye? Okay. No byes today.